Hello everybody, and welcome to Authenticity, or coffee if you're me, with Jera. This is usually a daily live stream that I do about themes around authenticity that come up in my life. I've dedicated my life to leading in the most authentic way possible, and this is where I kind of synthesize that a little bit and deconstruct it for everybody. We are coming off a 2-week long break. I had to take a break for a little while to focus on some things in my life right around the holidays, and I have cleared that out, and now I'm ready to sit back down with you. I'm going to try to change things up a little bit. I've been presenting these as sort of lessons in authenticity, and I'd like to try to get away from that. I feel like that doesn't feed me as well as just sharing stuff that comes up for me. I think that there's something really powerful about storytelling and about sharing from a vulnerable space about just things that happen and things that come up. So I want to try to start to focus a little bit more on that. So today I am going to share about something that I kind of just figured out this morning as I was getting ready for my day. It was around my father, and my father and I have a very complicated relationship, as I'm sure a lot of you have complicated relationships with your parents. I always go back and forth on how much to share because my father's had a lot of struggles in his life, and so part of me is how I don't want to be unfair by sharing things that might be hurtful, so I'm going to try to share just from my personal experience, my experience of what it was like to grow up with my father. My father struggled with alcoholism most of his life, since the military when he was young, and his fear gets very big when he drinks, and that fear turns into anger. And so a lot of my preteen and teen years were spent with him in that space of a lot of very righteous anger about life and how it had turned out for him, and especially around gender dynamics. Being a single dad was really hard on him, and he didn't really have a whole lot of resources. There aren't as many resources for single fathers as there are for single mothers. And this, in combination with his dating, the people that he dated weren't good matches for him. And there was a lot of gender dynamics that happened in a lot of his relationships that were really harmful to him. And so I grew up seeing that. I grew up listening to my father talk, sometimes more peacefully and calmly, and sometimes more angrily, about how unfair and shitty it was that he had to deal with all of this latent manipulation and violence, violence as I have defined it for myself, against him by the women in his life. And unfortunately, in his process, he sort of lumped me in with those people, which is fine. At this point, it's in the past. But I've always wondered, and I've actually had several people ask me who know something about my relationship with my father, why I continue to go into the dynamics, and why am I such a big proponent for men's rights if I experience such challenging things from an angry male earlier in my life. And I've always kind of wondered about this. I've always been is there this latent guilt in me that really wants to help him or change things for him? And I think partially that's right, but it's never seemed resonant. It really resonates as the reason that I'm still sort of very active in men's rights and in the gender dynamics, and how that's tied to my father. And I realized this morning, and should have realized a long time ago, that when my father was busy being angry or drinking or being resentful, or the explosive sort of negativity that I experienced from him, that's not what he was actually saying. he wasn't saying, I'm an angry man, I'm really screwed up. He wasn't saying any of those things. What he was actually saying was, I'm scared, I'm hurt, this feels horrible, I don't have any other way out, why won't anyone help me, why won't anyone see me? Like, behind the anger, behind the explosions, behind the alcoholism was this young boy reaching out to say, see me, see me, see me. No one is prepared to see me. And when I was growing up, looking at my dad's eyes, that's what I saw. I saw this like really deep, dark, raw pain. And that's the reason. Like, that's the reason I still think about activism in such a big way, especially around my father, is like, yes, there's a part of me that still wants to help him heal, which I can't do directly at this point. So I turn it outward on the rest of the world. Like, maybe if I help others heal, it'll come back to you. I think that's part of it. But I think a larger part of it is wanting to hear him. Like, even if he never understands or never sees or never hears, like in real time that I hear him, I feel like his soul receives it. I feel like everything that I do in his direction, he receives in some way. And so I want, every time that there's a meme online that talks about how men want to be and need a place to be emotional, need a place to be soft and seen and held and loved, I'm gonna repost it. I'm gonna talk about it. I'm gonna push for that, because while there is a lot of violence toward women from men in the world, there's also a lot of violence toward men from women in the world, in just a completely different way. And I can't go back in time and heal my father. I can't go back in time and prevent those relationships or prevent that grossness from happening to him. But what I can do is I can listen with ears pointed back, is listening to what he was trying to say, listening to what was actually like really deeply coming from him, instead of what the surface was, like what was coming out on the surface as a defense mechanism, what was behind all of that, and really trying to listen to that. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have boundaries. I have really significant boundaries with this person in my life. We really just don't have much of a connection anymore. But that doesn't mean, just because I have a physical or emotional boundary, doesn't mean that my heart isn't still in that space of trying to heal that connection in my own way. And I think that's a huge piece of authenticity.